Jesse Eisenberg, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi.
So you probably heard of a bazillion introductions before. How do you feel and what do you feel when you hear all those amazing things that people say about you?
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you, Gabi, and thank you very much for being here. Yeah, all I think is like, oh, why did they mention that credit? That one was bad. So, yeah, I feel no pride.
Do you ever get this feeling like it's not about you, it's about somebody else, it's about this character, and it's not that, little Jesse Eisenberg that you once were before?
Yes, in some ways, being like in the public eye for quite a long time, like you tend to, I think if you're like a normal person, you tend to like separate out this public thing that I do that feels a little alien, that feels kind of separate from who you personally are, from the person you actually are. I imagine if you're a psychopath, you probably fuse those two identities together in an unhealthy way.
Thank God you're not.
Yeah, I'm not, so I have this deep separation of shame and then public persona.
Fair enough. Anyways, we're in Poland and you're no stranger to this country, so how's it going with the citizenship?
Oh, good. So last year I made this movie about these two American cousins who come to Poland on like a cultural heritage tour. And my goal with it, besides just making a movie that I like and wanted to see and wanted to direct, but my goal with it also is to kind of bring a relationship between like Jewish people and Polish people closer together. My family is from here. They're from the southeast, Krasnystaw, near Lublin. And my family always talked about the amazing relationship they had with Poles. I never heard about horror stories. Sometimes you hear from American Jews this feeling of resentment towards the Poles, and I always heard the opposite. We were best friends with them. We were shocked that the war turned out the way it did. And so I was trying to, in an attempt to kind of like, regain my relationship with my history, also bring together Poles and Jews in a way that I think is very natural.
And how was it? Besides, making a movie, how was it for you? What did you feel? What was the emotional journey like?
So, yes, I made this movie here. I wrote it, and it's based on my real family history. We were filming even inside the house that my family lived in 1930 up to 1939. And it was amazing, because when we're looking for locations, I basically just gave them all the locations of my family's history. And we would go to these locations, and I would have this very cathartic experience of seeing these places where my family was, going inside the actual apartment building where they lived. Now it's like 90 years ago. And it was incredibly 80 years ago. Sorry, it was incredibly cathartic. And yet, when we were actually on set filming the movie, we had, 8 hours to film in this particular location. The sun was in my co-star's eyes, and he couldn't see. And so we had to rejigger the angle of the filming. And it just turned into like a regular movie. All the cathartic feelings I felt when I initially went there were gone, and now we just had to make this, daily shoot.
And how was it watching this movie? Because I know that you don't like watching movies in which you play, but
yeah.
When you direct a movie, it kind of feels like you have to watch it. So
yeah.
You're still playing in it. So How was it?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I don't watch the movies I've been in just because I don't, as you were saying backstage, you can't hear the sound of your own voice.
Exactly.
Similarly, I can't see my face from the side. I just think, well, who is that person? And anyway, so yeah, this is the first movie I directed that I'm in, and so I had to watch not only what we would call like the playback, you like seeing what we just filmed on camera after we filmed it, but also editing the movie for 6 months. The advantage of editing a movie that you're in is you can cut out all of the bad angles of your face. The disadvantage is that you have to look at them every day.
Yeah, so, you can't blindfold yourself while watching the movie, right?
Exactly. And as a kind of antidote, I'm not in the next movie that I'm directing.
All right, fair enough. Is that because you had to watch yourself?
It's because I don't often think of characters that I could play. When I get a script to be in, I'm always surprised by what they would cast me in. I would never cast myself as a villain in a movie, or I'm about to shoot a movie, Now You See Me 3, and my character is this like arrogant magician. I would never have cast myself in that either. And so when I'm thinking of roles for myself, they're usually less interesting than the parts that I get.
All right, so you have to distinguish like your role as a director and as an actor and everything. But what was the process like? Because you directed 2 movies so far, and it was a process. I know that you always wanted to do it. You've written plays and everything since you were 16. So what was the process like? And when you already had that much on your plate, was there a moment when you thought, oh, it's a little bit overwhelming and I haven't thought it through before, so is this a good choice for me?
Oh, that's such a nice question. I'm like a generally very anxious person, but I feel very comfortable when I'm in situations that are generally or genuinely more stressful. Like if I'm in a kind of difficult situation, or like I had to take care of somebody that was very, very sick, and for the first time in my life, it sounds so strange to say this, but I just was out of my own anxiety, and I was very capable at helping somebody in need. And then similarly, on a movie set where I have to do every job, I'm writing, directing, acting in it, it's a very theoretically very stressful experience, but it actually is the first time where my normal anxiety level meets the moment, and that's good for me. What's not healthy for me is like kind of just having an average day where I have to drop my kid off at school and then wait 6 hours to pick him up. To me, that's just a nightmare. I don't know what to do with myself or where to put my hands.
Right, so that terrifies you the most, even though you not once, you probably mentioned it on numerous occasions that it's a terrifying profession. So was there a moment in your life when you had to weigh, like on one side you had all your passion, you know, everything that drives you and gets you going, and on the other hand, like you had this fear of this industry? You know, there's a lot of bad people in this industry. There's a lot of rotten people and a lot of bad things that happen. So did you have to weigh it, like, you know, what's better for you? And is there more of your passion or more of the bad things that, you know, you had to make a decision whether you wanted to continue or not?
Yes, yeah, that's really a good analysis. Like in my industry, like many people know who I am, and it appears like I'm quite successful, and I understand that, but I'm actually in a freelance industry, which is to say one job ends and then you're totally unemployed until the next job comes along. It's not like there is some certain, you know, it used to be in Hollywood that the movie studios would sign an actor under contract, so they would have a yearly contract with a movie studio, and then the movie studio would decide where they want to put that actor. But now, for mostly better, but some for worse, you're freelance artists. So for me, I'm doing this movie, Now You See Me 3, and then I'm directing a movie. So this is great. I have these two things lined up, but after that, I don't know. It's possible I will never work again. It's unlikely, but it's possible, because truthfully, you're just as good as your last job. You're only as good as the movie, like, depends how much money the last thing you were in made. You know, so you're in essentially like kind of a very unstable profession. I'm friends with these actors, you know, I'm friends with Woody Harrelson, for example, and, you know, he, to me, is like the most working actor I know. He's the busiest actor I know, and yet he's been spending the last several weeks in Hawaii, where he lives, which is a nice place to not be working, but like, I was shocked that he was just lounging in Hawaii for a while, because to me, he's in every other movie that comes out. But it's really just the nature of this job, which is why you find a lot of people who wind up, you know, drinking or doing drugs, because you have really bright, hardworking people who just don't have somewhere to go every day. And so they end up doing kind of self-damaging things. I totally understand it. I'm not a person with any addiction, but I totally understand the feeling of being a bright, thinking, hardworking, capable, gregarious, educated, even person with nowhere to go during the day. It can be harrowing, and it could turn you onto pretty dangerous things.
Yeah, and that's one side of the story, and the other is that you're on, you know, under constant scrutiny. Like, everybody's looking at you. Everybody has something to say about you. And,
right.
You know, there are people that are gonna, you know, approach you on a street and ask you questions, and how do you deal with that? And how long did it take you to understand that that's how the business works? You've been in the business since you were a little kid, but, you know, the peak came later to you. So
yeah.
what was the process like for you?
Yeah, no, thanks for asking. My wife's degree in university was anthropology, and she's a little older than me, so when I started going to college, I just chose her degree as well. So my degree is also in anthropology, and I'm very interested in other people and people from other cultures. This is what I studied, and yet I'm also a very shy person. But being public allows me to now talk to people, because people approach me, and like, for example, I would never meet somebody like you if I wasn't in this industry, and you have the most interesting life of any person I would ever meet. You know, you grew up in Indonesia, but you're Polish. You have like this...
That is so impressive.
Oh, sorry. No, I mean, you're this fascinating person who I'm so thankful that I got to meet.
Oh my God, keep going.
But yeah, I just think you're like the coolest person in the world. No, but like,
I will remember this moment forever.
yeah, so will I. No, I just mean like, I'm such a shy person that I would never approach you to talk to you about your life, because
See, that's the thing that we talked about before we went on stage, that most of the people that work in the industry, media or music or, you know, movies, everybody's like, oh, I'm really shy, I'm not that outgoing person. And then on stage, you see this monster, you know, doing amazing things. And it feels like this is a perfect space for somebody that never, like, believed in themselves or, you know, had these issues, like people issues and so on.
Exactly. No, it's really funny. Like when I went to acting school when I was younger, like all the kids that were very kind of like showy and extroverted, none of them are in the entertainment industry now. And yet, like, this kid, like Michael, was like the best actor in my acting class, Michael Rivera, and like no one knew anything about him. I found out later, like, he had this incredibly tragic, shockingly tragic life, but no one knew a thing about him. He never talked about himself, and yet when he was acting in class, it was like this amazing, shocking thing. I found out after that, like, his mom had been like killed in front of him. Like, he had all of this need to
really
express himself, but he never did it in person. He only did it through acting. And he gave these like riveting performances. You know, we would do scenes in acting class from Shakespeare or Chekhov, you know, kind of very basic, not basic, very typical acting class scenes. And he was just riveting. And it's because he had all these things to say, but couldn't talk about it, because it was too painful to talk about. And I had a very weird childhood as well. And I would never talk about my childhood except with a therapist. But being an actor allowed me to, in some ways, emotionalize this stuff that was very kind of traumatic for me. And so, yeah, similar to what you're talking about, it's a lot of people who are shy in our industry and media and as actors, a lot of people who grew up shy and who could not talk about their real lives because it was either traumatic or uncomfortable, or they felt so stupid or strange or small or weird or outcast. But being an actor allows them to do that. So I'm about to do this movie, Now You See Me 3. My character is this like arrogant showman. He's a magician. It's something I would never, ever do in my personal life. I would never walk into a room and say, hey, everybody, here, I'm going to do this trick for you, and you're all stupid if you don't get it. I would feel so embarrassed to have this personality. And yet in this movie, I get to express that. And it like kind of makes up for all of my childhood. In fact, these movies, Now You See Me, when I first started doing them, there was no character for my character. It was there was a sketch of a character, but the movie company said, we're going to rewrite this entirely, so you can play whatever you want to play. And so I was like, fantastic, I want to play an arrogant, you know, showman who has no anxiety, who doesn't doubt himself. And they were like, that sounds great. And so I ended up creating this character that I will now play in 3 movies. That was like the exact opposite of my childhood. And it's like the most emotionally healthy space for me. I go home at the end of the day after shooting these movies, and I'm like nice to people. I'm very friendly with my wife, and I'm confident, and I pick my kid up, and I say, you're gonna be a great adult. Yes, it's just this strange thing. It's just like healed all these childhood wounds.
Wow, yeah, well, definitely. But does it feel sometimes hard to, you know, get out of those emotions that you put in the movies? Because it's not like you can just like switch yourself off and go home. Sometimes it's like you have to spend numerous hours at the gym, like constantly, and do other things that, you know, are so much involving. So
yes, I've mostly played characters that are like nervous and self-hating, and those like tear me apart. Like, I did a movie once that was based on the Dostoevsky novella called The Double, and I played this character who was just so deeply self-hating to a comical degree, and it was just torture. I mean, you just feel, it's not even like I'm a method actor where I think I'm the character. That's kind of like almost psychopathic. Like, it's just that you spend 12 hours a day feeling these emotions of self-doubt and self-hatred and anxiety. And when you get home, your body thinks that you felt all those things for real. Yeah. And so you're just in this horrifying state of anxiety and self-hatred.
Exactly, the body and what they say, the brain doesn't distinguish between a lie and between the reality. It only hears what you say and what you do. So it the body feels it as well, just like you're saying. Was there anything in your life that you have heard that sort of changed the trajectory of the way you were thinking about your life, the industry, made you change your choices?
Wow, thank you for asking that, especially with 7 seconds left. Yes, the most important thing anybody ever said to me, go. Yes, I was friends, I'll just briefly say, I was friends and kind of a protege of this writer, Bob Odenkirk, who's also an actor from Breaking Bad, this amazing comedic writer and actor. And yeah, he once just read a script of mine. It was a movie script I wrote when I was 19, which was like a big budget kind of Hollywood movie script that I thought would be great. And he just said, buddy, this is terrible. Write something from your heart. And it was like the meanest thing anybody said to me and the most helpful thing. And it started me on a journey of just writing plays that were real and now movies that are kind of more real.
And that was something totally meaningful. I can't believe it's been already 15 minutes. Thank you so much, Jesse. It was a blast. It was a pleasure. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you so much.